I'm Larry Fedoruk, and this is I Was 8.
No one told you life was gonna be this way.
Hold on. Sorry, wrong theme. Hang on.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a
No. No. What the? Who the? All right. Okay. Oh, here we are. This is it. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of old shows. I gotta change that. Everyone asks, "Hey Larry, have you been watching the new series on Netflix? It's trending everywhere." No, I'm not. But I'll tell you, the other day on Bewitched, that Endora, she was really causing trouble for Darren. How does he do it? No one in the 60s had a very nice mother-in-law, that's for sure. Which reminds me, how are you? I'm good. I'm a little fatigued with the phrase, "we're all in this together." I mean, I don't mind if I hear it from a medical expert or a frontline worker, but when I hear it from someone on TV trying to sell me a car, or a new burger, not only topped with cheese, but stuffed with cheese. Yeah, that'll get us through this. Speaking of which, why is Kurt Browning on TV trying to sell me a CHIP reverse mortgage? Because, when I'm thinking of refinancing my house, my first thought is, what would Kurt Browning do? Money questions in general. Let's ask figure skaters what they think. That's why Scott Moyer and Tessa Virtue do my taxes. Elvis Stoico is my stockbroker. I bank at Soleil & Pelletier. What do figure skaters have to do with finances? It's crazy. It's enough to make me want to just shut off my TV and cook something on my George Foreman grill. By the way, I find that the Dr. Ho circulation promoter can really cook hot dogs to a T if you hook the wires up just right. So yeah, I'm fine, and we're all in this together. I get the sentiment, but it's getting together that's killing us. Togetherness is not what we need. We need apartness, more apartness. I know, it's meant that we're together as humanity, as a society, but follow me here. I watch a few news cycles every day. In the space of an hour, you can hear from the Premier, Health Minister, and Chief Medical Officer from each of Canada's 13 territorial governments. That's already up to 39 people. Then add about a half a dozen from the feds, and then the United States, plus a few of their states. Obviously Britain, France, the EU, parts of Asia. And suddenly, there's 100 people with different messages. Oh, sure, wear a mask, wash your hands. But here, you can go to the gym, but you can't get a haircut. Over there, you can stay at home, but if you live alone, you can have one family over. Over there, you can shop, but over there, it's only curbside pickup. Well, you can go to church in a car, but you got to stay in the car. The messaging has been the worst, not to mention China and Russia basically lying most of the time, or maybe they all are. I have no idea. We elected most of these bozos, and we've learned they're mostly making it up as they go along. Despite years of medical and scientific warnings, epidemics and pandemics we've had in the past. Yet here we are, scrambling. Recently, I watched this documentary on the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. It's amazing how many of the same mistakes we've made. It's like that old saying, if we don't watch the History Channel, we are bound to watch repeats. Something like that, I don't know. Despite all that, I'm trying to be positive. I do believe we'll get through this. How did I even get on this topic? Oh yeah, how are you? I am fine. I am fine. I've been fortunate in that I have a project that keeps me mostly home alone. It's the I Was 8 podcast. This is a bonus episode. It's bonus episode number 4. A bonus episode indicates that another season, 13 episodes of I Was 8, has been completed. So, If this is number 4, then we do the carry the one with the thing, and then or thing. That's right, 4 seasons have been done. And by the way, that was just a cheap excuse to use the adding machine sound effect. For some reason, I find it highly comical. I've used it often in the podcast. It's like a metaphor for the human mind calculating life before electronics. I'm here to announce on this bonus episode that I Was 8 has been extended into a 5th season. Here's what happened, to rehash some I Was 8 history. This started out as a writing project in 2019, to be a book of essays or stories. And about halfway through the year, I thought, hey, this could be a podcast. Toward the end of 2019, when I began in earnest to make it a weekly podcast, I also started rewriting some of the stories. For some stories, I take out big chunks of script, saying to myself, this should be not part of this story, but its own story. I also wrote some new stories, all in my goal of creating 52 episodes. Episode 52, also known as Season 4, Chapter 13, Elocution, popped last week. And here I am with more stories. Leftovers, if you will. Therefore, I'm extending the series. How long? Not sure yet. But at least for the next few weeks, new episodes of I Was 8. I'm calling them the lost episodes. Because in the course of the year, they were mostly lost. Bottom of the file, notes on bits of paper everywhere, scattered thoughts snoozing in the back of the brain. All found again, brought to life, new episodes of I Was 8. My goal is to be like Hendrix and Tupac. For years, they'll just keep finding previously unreleased material. No, of course not, just kidding. I'm not comparing myself to Hendrix and Tupac. Although I do have a lot of unreleased material. It's called crap. Yeah, no one will ever see it unless I'm on Facebook one night after too many martinis. And no, that's never happened before. No. Which reminds me, people ask, what is the next podcast? I Was 9? Yeah, good one. I never heard that joke before. Actually, I'm working on 2 different ideas for podcasts. And I may just do them both. Another storytelling podcast, and one more like my old job of talk show host. When I get those together, then you'll hear about it here on this space. And don't forget, I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Just those 2. Pretty old school, I know. I'm also on Megaphone, not a social site. It's an actual megaphone I bought at a hardware store a couple of years ago. It was on sale, not kidding. So I like to stand on the corner and yell at people and cars.
All right, Mr. Whiteout, slow down. Hey, Mr. Green Skin Jacket, lighten up that mask.
Oh, hey, here's some good news. This bonus episode has a sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Al Pacino's Warehouse for Men. Fine menswear for the very short and extremely stocky. At Al Pacino's Warehouse for Men, we don't judge, but at the same time, we realize you'll never look that good no matter what you put on. We also carry a complete line of leisure and sportswear. Just kidding, it's all leisure wear. We know you don't do sports. That's Al Pacino's Warehouse for Men in the heart of downtown or online at alpacinoswarehouseformen.com. That's L, not Al, E-L, then underscore, then Pacino's, P-U-C-H, 2 E's, N-O, and Z, or Z, Pacino's. Oh, and the warehouse, it's spelled where, W-E-A-R, and house is H-A-U-S. And then the number 4, and then men.com. Like Al Pacino's always says,
My name is is Al Pacino's, not the actor.
Website currently down. Store closed due to COVID. Some inventory tied up in a legal dispute on a pier in China. No refunds. All sales final. Shop today. All right. So I was 8, never had a real sponsor. That's all right. Timing, the economy, it's affected us all. I really should have consulted my figure skaters on how to monetize this podcast. But from the beginning, this was a labor of love and will continue to be so as long as I'm doing it. Dorothy Parker once famously said, "I hate writing, but I love having written." I've been there, but also lately, I really enjoy the writing process. So week to week, I write or rewrite a script, then I record it, then I produce it into the podcast episodes you've been hearing, and then I do an accompanying basic video for the I Was 8 YouTube channel. If you're listening on an audio platform right now, thank you. Soon the music will end, and you'll have to wait until Thursday for the next episode of I Was 8. But if you are also watching on the I Was 8 YouTube channel, stick around. As a bonus, you get a compilation of all the cow jokes that have appeared over the weeks. If you haven't watched on YouTube, you're saying, cow jokes? Yeah, they're only visual. And don't ask me why cow jokes. Just one day, many weeks ago, when I was drawing pictures for the videos, I thought, gee, it would be funny to throw in a picture of 2 cows talking. And after I drew them, they so amused me, I decided they would have to come back again. And they did. And again as a running gag. They are never referenced in the audio portion or necessarily a part of the story, but they appear in many of the videos. So audio, thank you for supporting I Was 8 Season 5, Episode 1 on Thursday. All the best. Video, we're sticking around till the cows come home. All right, I Was 8 YouTube channel fans. We are alone at last. Meet the cows. Say hello to Monica and Carol. They play Cecily and Gwendolyn on many I Was 8 YouTube videos. I've done 4 seasons of I Was 8, and the cows first appeared at the end of Season 1 in an episode called The Math Riddle That Consumed Me. In the story, I talk about my mom's side of the family, very pious. They observed the Sabbath. They didn't work on Sunday. Yet my Uncle Joe would always say, well, he had to get home because he had to get the cows in and milk the cows. And I would say, why are you working on a Sunday? And my Uncle Joe would always say to me, the cows don't know it's Sunday. As a kid, when I was on my Uncle Joe's farm, I'd run into the barn and yell, hey, cows, day after tomorrow is Sunday, or today is Sunday. And I would go back and tell my Uncle Joe, hey, Uncle Joe, the cows know about Sunday, I told them. So as I told that story on the podcast, I thought it might be funny to have on the YouTube video the cows trying to figure out what day it was. And thusly, they made their debut. Their next appearance was a few weeks later on an episode called The Green Jacket. Out of the blue, my dad had bought me a brand new jacket that he said was both genuine leather and waterproof. Therefore, the cows. Next, they popped up on the episode called Hotel Dining, completely unexpectedly. My dad worked at the hotel and the pub. That was always busy, but I always wondered in our town who stayed at the hotel. Well, I guess traveling salesmen. But then I remember my dad always telling jokes about traveling salesmen who would stay on a farm, don't touch the farmer's daughter, and then the guy said his name was Chuck, and the farmer shot him. Ha ha. That was part of the joke I remember my dad telling. So, of course, on a farm, if the cows heard gunshots. By the time I got around to the episode called The Priesthood, where it was thought that I might become a priest, it was obvious the cows had to react this way. Next was the episode The Great Lorenzo Hypnotist, where Ravine came into town, and my dad volunteered to be one of the people on stage and clucked like a chicken. Ergo? In the episode called The Condiments File, I preferred my hamburgers with mustard only. Then there was Kissing the Stop Sign, which, if you heard the episode, a bully actually made me do when I was 8. When you talk bullies, I guess you're talking cows. In the chapter called My Dad Can Beat Up Your Dad, I talked about country weddings and how they would build a dance floor right in the middle of the farmyard for the wedding. So then at some point, this joke entered my head. Cecily and Gwen next appeared in the episode called The New Car. This appearance was actually inspired by the script where I described our old car's horn as cows gargling on 7-Up. And by the way, I got the effect of the car horn by using the sound effects of cows and gargling and then modifying them together. By the end of the episode, I talked about a car horn that sounded more like 2 cows choking on 7-Up. So the cows made a second appearance in the same story. In a story called The Big Trip, we visited some family out in Alberta, and they said they lived on a ranch, although it looked like a farm to me. In the story called Movie Magazines, I talked about my dad's old farm homestead, how animals roamed free and it was kind of run down. Every once in a while, a cow would stick its head through the living room window before being shushed away by my grandma. Of course, our beloved cows had to make an appearance on the episode called Halloween. If you did not hear the episode called The Comedians, I talked about as an 8-year-old wanting to be a comedian like Jackie Mason and trying to affect his comedy. Like when my mom said to finish my milk, I would say, "What do we buy, a cow?" Hilarious. In the story of Corporal Punishment, I talked about getting the strap at school, the strap being a good piece of leather, a piece of genuine cowhide. Therefore, in the Sliding Hill story, I talked about living out in the country in a teacherage and sliding down the hill to my uncle's farm, running across the farmyard, and then sliding down another hill into a valley. Now, well, if I'm running across a farmyard, the cows would have had to see me. During our family's Christmas Eve celebrations, we always had 12 meatless dishes in reverence to the animals in the manger. And during the episode, I wondered why the dishes were meatless if there were cows in the barn that were going to be steaks by Friday. And in the last episode of Season 4, called Elocution, I talked about the speeches little kids made in the little grades, like usually about their pet cat, except the farm kids who would have a pet cow named Daisy, and eventually it was on the dinner table. So I thought it only fair that the cows get to have the dedication at the end of the story. So that's every cow joke that's ever appeared in an I Was 8 YouTube video. Thank you to the wonderful cows, Monica and Carol, as Cecily and Gwendolyn. Gee, do you think the cows might come back in Season 5? Oh, I think so.